The middle doesn't have the best reputation. The middle child, the middle seat of an airplane, the middle of a 20-season TV show, or even the middle finger. Now, here's an unpopular opinion. The middle seat of an airplane is the best seat you could ever ask for. I'm sandwiched perfectly in between my two siblings for a 15-hour plane ride to Taiwan. The middle seat is what I've been used to, especially since my big sister always got the aisle seat to stretch out her legs, while my younger brother always got the window seat to entertain himself. But beyond that, the middle means more than the typically undesired seat. Growing up as the middle child, I've heard my relatives' sympathetic whispers to my parents in Mandarin. She must be overlooked as the middle child. Make sure you give Vivian enough attention too. On the flight back home, I replayed my relatives' comments over and over again. I saw answers, and so, of course, I turned to Google and I searched stigmas of a middle child. I was surprised to see the extensive research on middle child syndrome, a common belief that middle children are inherently overlooked, overshadowed, quiet, neglected, rebellious, the list goes on. In my freshman year of high school, I was notoriously known as my high-achieving, outgoing sister's little sister. I basked in the opportunity to always stand on the sidelines, quietly listening, observing, and avoiding any possible eye contact because I believed my words had no value. This self-doubt and shyness was what I was used to, especially since I was never one to dominate the conversation at home during dinner. I sometimes wonder, what was the source of my shyness? Was it simply nature versus nurture, or was it because of my fear of stepping out of place as the middle sibling? Part of the reason why middle child syndrome exists is because we rarely have these uncomfortable conversations about defining our roles within our family and how it shapes us. With this in mind, I found it easy for me to fall into something known as the other-imposed self-fulfilling prophecy. In 1948, American sociologist Robert K. Merton coined the psychology term self-fulfilling prophecy. Other-imposed self-fulfilling prophecy implies that when person A sets an expectation of person B, then person B is likely to fulfill the expectation that person A imposes on them. So, when looking at this through the lens of middle child syndrome, when a middle child is always told that they're quiet, overshadowed, rebellious, then of course they will believe and embody these characteristics. I mean, after all, when there's a whole syndrome named after you, it kind of gets in your head. I continued to recognize these self-fulfilling prophecies in my childhood when I'd binged just a little bit too much TV. One show I remember was called Malcolm in the Middle, which basically features the middle child Malcolm, who's known as the rebellious tryhard of the family. Seeing the media portray the middle child in a negative light only perpetuated this stereotype. Growing up, I noticed that my older sister was always the one who carried the responsibility of setting a good example. As the guinea pig of our family, she always had the attention of my parents because they were navigating life with a teen for the very first time. And for my brother, as the baby of the household, he somehow had a way of swindling my parents to let him play video games until 2 a.m. or even eat chocolate for breakfast. But I knew there had to be more to it. I talked with my family about the experiences being the middle child and the pressure I felt with always having to navigate uncharted territory on my own. During this conversation, we talked about what it means to live life as the middle child, and we realized that the middle child is someone who can empathize and, most importantly, bring the siblings together. After that conversation, I learned to tap into the unsung characteristics of a middle child. I chose to disbelieve middle child syndrome and began believing in my actions and words. And soon enough, I turned to journalism as a way to express my voice creatively and bring people together with words, and also learn to speak in front of a large audience. Middle children have often been associated with being quiet followers, but it also means we know when to lead versus when to follow. As I continued to explore middle child syndrome, I learned that half of our presidents and other notable leaders, such as Martin Luther King Jr., Susan B. Anthony, and Warren Buffett, are all middles. As Sam Duboff from Stanford Graduate School of Business explains in his talk about middle children know what it feels like to be both the top dog and the underdog. We've experienced life being both inferior and superior all at the same time. And in the long run, this is beneficial because middle children learn how to negotiate and also navigate uncharted territory. A quote from Duboff's talk particularly resonated with me. He said, "Being a middle means having the humility to take advice from others, but also the confidence to know that you have a voice, that you have worth." At home, I always turn to my sister for advice, but I also have the perks of mentoring, supporting, and bossing around my little brother. And at school, I know when to give space for others to talk versus when to step up and lead. Now, with all of this in mind, what can we learn from the middle child? First, as Duboff claims in his speech, we can all learn to live from the middle just a little bit more. Society always tells us that the way to success is to move upwards and to be in a position of power. I see this when high schoolers are so eager to become president of 10 clubs, or when the CEO of an organization or company is always the one who's featured in media. But what impact does this truly entail? Secondly, it's also important that families discuss their family dynamics, because when a child understands their role in their family, then they can confidently dive headfirst into understanding their role in society as a whole. Most importantly, these conversations can positively impact their future trajectory, such that children can confidently navigate life and also ensure that they recognize that their actions and words are appreciated and valued in society. These values are instilled within us from the ground up, and they shape who we become in the future. For me, I'm embracing my identity as a middle child. I'm learning to lean into the unsung characteristics and also to live life from the middle so that people remember me for my empathy and ability to bring people together, regardless if they are older or younger than me. Ironically, I thrive as the middle child, and I cannot see myself in any other way. I carry the personality of my 21-year-old sister, who is confident and bold, while also embodying the characteristics of my 14-year-old brother, as he is an excellent listener and observer. It's the best of both worlds. The middle is my cup of medium-sized tea, and it's a pretty cool place here. Thank you.